First initial bracket of March Madness 2026 with the gut. Duke's beating Siena. Ohio State TCU is really tough, but the Big 12 bias and TCU is just a better all-around team. And then this is where shit gets tricky here. St. John's, Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa is a team under their head coach that has won at least one tournament game in every single March Madness that they have played in. That is ridiculous. They've won at least one. They're 4 for 4. St. John's, a lot of people are saying that they got gypped with this 5 seed. I don't see it that way, but I am not a Big East believer. I'm selling my stock in the Big East. Etchafor's a dog. They have decent guard play with the white boy whose name I'm forgetting. They rebound really well. They turn people over. They're a really good defensive team. And I think that's a lot for one of these mid-majors teams to suffocate. And I want to take Northern Iowa. I really do. But a thing you're going to hear me say a lot here is you bet the team, bet the players. Don't bet the trend. The trend is Northern Iowa wins here. But St. John's is just better at basketball. So as much as I want to take Northern Iowa, I'm going to take St. John's. And Patino in March, I don't think he gets bounced. And I'm very impressed with the way that St. John's responded in the Big East Championship against a UConn team that ran them out of the gym. You know, they could have, it seemed like UConn might have had their, but they didn't. And St. John's bounced back way in a good way. Kansas and Cal Baptist. Kansas is a team that has the highest ceiling in March. I'm still saying that. I don't think they're going to touch their ceiling, though. I don't think they're going to touch the ceiling. But Flo Badunga is too much of a beast down low. Darren Peterson is good enough to get you at least one, and they just have too much offensive firepower with Melvin Council, Bryson Tiller, and Trey White. I like Kansas over Cal Baptist, even though Cal Baptist had that buzzer beat or whatever. They only won because the dude missed the alley-oop. South Florida, Louisville. South Florida is one of the trendiest upset picks. We've seen it all offseason. They beat Utah State. They have a guard that shoots like 10 threes a game, and they have a really versatile, I'm not really a stretch for, kind of like a Yaxel. That's at least what Ryan Hammer said about him. He's like a Yaxel guy. And Louisville has some of the best guards in the country. I mean, Conwell and Michael Brown, if he's playing, that's some of the best card play in the country. But I'm riding with South Florida, who has a pretty decent out-of-conference schedule. They do have some quad one wins, and Louisville just hasn't been completely 100%. And they are playing. This is a tough draw for Louisville, bro. Either way, I'm taking South Florida in the upset here. Another thing that's going into my mind here, and I got to just get out of this mindset where it's like, don't take the trend, take the team. But I think the team in South Florida is good enough where it matches the trend, and the trend is like 55% of 11 seeds have won in March Madness history over the 6 seed. The only double-digit seed to actually have won more games than they've lost. So give me South Florida, and then Michigan State over North Dakota State. UCLA, UCF. UCLA is my favorite team in March Madness. Sky Clark, one of the nastiest handles in the country. He wears his shorts down to his knees, and he makes you look stupid. It's Sky with 2 Ys, by the way. I'm going to make these picks assuming Donovan Dent plays. Even without Bilodeau, I think they can still make a solid run. But if Bilodeau is playing, UCLA can make the Elite Eight, dare I say, the Final Four if they were in any other region without Duke in it. UCLA takes care of UCF. UConn takes care of Furman. Let's just finish up the East region. We'll go region by region. Duke over TCU. Kansas, St. John's. Such a tough matchup. Let's show this in Torvik for you guys watching on YouTube. Kansas versus St. John's. Now, Kansas is a team, like I said earlier, their upside offensively is just so much higher than St. John's. But St. John's is a way better, way more physical defensive team. That doesn't mean we're going to discredit Kansas for what they're able to do on the defensive side of the ball, right? Flo Badunga is probably, in my opinion, the best interior defensive player in the country. You have Mara in Michigan. You have Krivas in Arizona. You have Akpara in Tennessee. You have Uday in Miami. Those two are probably not in the conversation, but they're some of the most underrated players in the country. There's a lot of good bigs. Flo Badunga, Akpara, I favor Badunga in that matchup. And I think they just have too much shooting, too much shot-making ability. Kansas does. And if we look here, St. John's doesn't do a good job at running teams off the three-point line. They do defend it well, but Kansas is a team that is going to take threes. They're going to make threes. They have one of the highest two-point field goal efficiency ratings in the country here at the 6th highest clip at 44%. Their only real problem is they don't create turnovers defensively. So St. John's will likely get more extra possessions because they'll create more turnovers. They don't turn the ball over. They create more second chance opportunities. But like I said, when Badunga's on the floor, Kansas is just a problem. And although Darren Peterson's been he's been under the highlight of the media for a while this season because of his cramps and his flu-like symptoms. I think he's going to come out here and want to try and prove people wrong and be on a tear. and I'm fading the Big East. So I'll give me Kansas over St. John's in this game. They just have too much offensive firepower. But yeah, I'm fading the Big East end of the day. South Florida, Michigan State. Izzo gets to the Sweet 16. Izzo gets to the Sweet 16. I'm not going to mess around. UCLA, UConn. UConn is the most overrated team in the tournament. I've seen enough. And I defended UConn for a while. Lost to Marquette. Lost to Creighton. Really struggled in the Big East, even though they won all their games. The guard play is really inconsistent. They have good bigs down low, but UCLA is going to have the better guard play. UCLA is going to have a more efficient offense, and UCLA is going to have more upperclassmen, even though Caravan should be working in an office somewhere in private equity. Give me UCLA, who put up a better fight against Purdue in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament than Michigan did. That game was tied with like 4 minutes to go. Sky Clark, Donovan Dent, Tyler Bilodeau, if they're healthy, they beat UConn. I'm picking them, assuming those guys are playing, at least Donovan Dent. If Donovan Dent doesn't play, UCLA is not getting past UCF. But I'm assuming they're going to play UCLA over UConn, and then we get a rematch of UCLA, Michigan State in the Sweet 16. Chat, I am taking UCLA. They beat them before. They can beat them again. Even though Fears is probably the second or third best point guard in the country, I think Donovan Dent is disgusting, man. I think Donovan Dent is disgusting. They did it once. They can do it again. Sometimes teams just have your number. UCLA has been one of the most underrated teams all season long. Mitch Cronin had that stuff in his press conference. I think that's a little bit of a fire. Ryan with the follow. Thank you, Ryan. Absolute petition there. Follow if you want to join the March Madness pool. Sorry if you're listening on Spotify. I'm recording. I'm also live while I'm recording this. UCLA, Michigan State. Give me UCLA to go to the Elite Eight. They have been one of my biggest sleepers all season. They're my biggest sleeper now. Time to put my money where my mouth is. And I think this is a really favorable draw for them against a UConn team that I think is the worst 2 seed, right? So give me UCLA to the Elite Eight. Duke, Kansas. This is where it's all over for Kansas. Duke's just unstoppable. The way that Caden Boozer played in the ACC championship, I think continuity does matter as well. Kansas just doesn't have that with Darren Peterson only playing in like half the games or whatever. Duke takes UCLA or Kansas down, and then Duke does take down Mitch Cronin, Donovan Dent, and the UCLA Bruins. Duke advances to the Final Four in what is the easiest region, I think, I don't want to say by far, because the South is not that hard either, but I think the East is the way easier region than Arizona's. And I think Arizona deserved to be the number 1 overall seed, and they got fisted by this region, man. They really did. Because Wisconsin's one of the better 5s. Arkansas is the best 4. They have AJ DeBansa in their region. Gonzaga stinks. They're a garbage 3. But then they have Purdue as the 2. They're the best 2. I wouldn't say that. Houston's really solid, too. So is Iowa State. But Purdue's playing really good ball right now. So I think Arizona got hosed. They take on Long Island. Fins up. Arizona beats Long Island, though, in the first round. All due respect to the Sharks. Villanova, Utah State. I think this is the worst 8-9 matchup. Villanova does shoot a good amount of threes. Duke Brennan is a beast down low. But Falslev and the guy with the headband, I forget his name. I just refer to him as the guy with the headband for Utah State. Pretty good down low. And they were very impressive in the Mountain West. I thought that Mountain West was going to have way more resistance against Utah State. And San Diego State did put up a good fight. And they are a very good defensive team. I think Utah State finally gets a win and gets out of the first round with all the glaze. And the computers love them, too. But then give me Arizona over Utah State. Wisconsin, High Point. This is... Oh, damn it. I forgot on the YouTube. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, I forgot to switch back. Damn it. I forgot to switch back. But here is where we're at. Here is where we're at on the YouTube. We have Duke over UCLA. Well, let's go back to Torvik. And let's take a look at this Wisconsin High Point matchup. Because this is... The Wisconsin versus High Point matchup is going to be one that's just going to have me rolling over in my grave, man. I think, not my grave, but at night. This is the matchup of nightmares. This is a matchup that just keeps you up at night, ladies and gentlemen, because High Point has a white man that wears the number 99 and only shoots threes. Wisconsin is the most volatile team in the country. They beat Michigan. They beat Illinois a couple times. They have some really good ones. They beat Michigan State, but then they lost to Oregon. They got blown out by Ohio State. Nick Boyd is a dog. They got one of the best backcourts in the country over there at Wisconsin. But High Point's going to be a trendy upset pick. They play really, really fast. They shoot a lot of threes, and Wisconsin lets up. Oh no, Wisconsin does not. Wisconsin shuts down people from the 3-point line here. They are 5th in the NBA in 3-point rate. No, that's the threes they shoot. You moron. All right. Disregard everything I said. They don't run teams off the line, but they shoot a shit ton of threes. Let's look at the Torvik here. Effective field goal percentage is about even. High Point might have the best turnover margin in the country. I mean, they don't turn the ball over. They're fourth in turnover percentage offensively. They are fifth in turnover percentage defensively. Oh my gosh, Wisconsin doesn't turn the ball over either, but they don't create any. High Point does create some, so I think High Point will get a few more extra possessions. The rebounding is not really a factor. High Point gets to the line. Holy shit, High Point is 22nd in the country in free throw rate. But Wisconsin does a good job at not fouling. Wisconsin doesn't get to the line. So far, it's looking like extra possessions and free throws for High Point makes you want to take High Point. I'll probably take them to cover, but Wisconsin is too good of a team here, man. They're too good of a team. They have too many good wins, and if they're on, they are unstoppable. So I can't do it. I have to take Wisconsin over High Point. As much as I want to take the 12-5, it just doesn't make sense to it. And then Arkansas is my favorite team in this tournament, probably. I'll take Arkansas over Hawaii. I hate this draw for the Razorbacks. I hate it. Texas, NC State, both teams suck. Give me AJ DeBansa and BYU. Gonzaga, Kennesaw State. We'll take Gonzaga, unfortunately. Kennesaw State, second time in the tournament. Miami and Mizzou. This game is in Kansas City. So that makes you want to take Missouri, but I've been a Miami Glazer all year. I think Trey Donaldson's a really good point guard, really experienced point guard. I love the job Jay Lucas has done. He was an assistant at Duke for a very long time. Uday's a really good player. Mark Renaud's a really good player. I think I like Miami at Mizzou. And Mizzou's has a few good wins, but all of them came at home, which I think is a little bit concerning for some tournament teams. Give me Miami over Mizzou. And then Purdue's playing phenomenal ball right now. Give me Purdue over Miami. Arizona beats Utah State. Wisconsin, Arkansas. That's going to be a fun game. But I'm all in on Darius Acuff. I'm all in on the Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm all in on Brazil. Malik Thomas, one of the most underrated freshmen in the country. They have DJ Wagner off the bench. I'm all in on the Razorbacks. They take care of Wisconsin in the round of 32. They get to the second weekend. Arizona, Arkansas, that's just a brutal matchup. I think BYU takes care of Gonzaga. Unless Braden Huff is back, which I don't think he's going to be, I think Gonzaga is overrated. I mean, Graham Ike is a really good player. They have that Spanish point guard that's kind of found his shot a little bit recently, but Gonzaga has struggled in the West Coast Conference. They got blown out by Michigan earlier this year. They do have some pretty good wins in their out-of-conference schedule, but I don't care. I've been low on Gonzaga all year. They lost to Portland, squeaked by Santa Clara. Give me BYU over the Zags. Miami, Purdue. I can't take Miami here. I think this is a tough draw for two of my favorite teams in the tournament. Really tough draws, and that's Miami and Arkansas. Purdue's playing some really good basketball, man, and you can't discredit the Unks. You can't discredit the Unks, as my friend Tyler in the TikTok chat likes to call them. You can't discredit the Unks. They have so much experience. Braden Smith and Lawyer have played crucial minutes in Final Fours, in March, in national championships. I like Purdue. Really, really underrated. Big man down low. Not Trey Kaufman, but Cliff, whatever the fuck his name is. I think Purdue over Miami, unfortunately. And now we have Arizona, Arkansas, BYU, Purdue. I'm going Arizona, man. And they are getting such a tough run of it, man. They are really getting hosed, but they're just better. I mean, they are just better. They're healthier. I think they have the best guards in this tournament. Jaden Bradley is one of the clutchest players. He's got some Walter Clayton about him, and it's not just in that Iowa State game. And it's not. He's been clutch for them all year. He's averaging like 3 more points per game against ranked opposition at the time that they were, like at the time they played them if they were ranked, than he is regularly. Burries is a beast. They have the defense down low, the scoring down low with Koa Pete and Krivas. Koa Pete, one of the most underrated defenders. He locked down Joshua Jefferson when they played in the regular season. Delorso off the bench is a problem. That guy's getting 20, 25 in the Sweet 16 or at some point this season. Delorso is one of the best 6 men in the country. Arizona is deep. They defend well, and they have it's funny. The most battle-tested team out of the top 4 seeds is getting the most battle. It's gonna be the bloodiest national championship we will ever see if Florida can pull it off. They're gonna have to beat Darius Acuff and John Calipari, Arkansas. They're gonna beat either AJ DeBansa and BYU or Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman, Ren's Purdue. Like, it is going to be the bloodiest of bloodiest roads to the Final Four we've ever seen. Give me the Arizona Wildcats over Purdue Boilermakers in the Elite Eight to get out of the West. And I butchered the screen share on YouTube, and I'm sorry. But here's where we're at. We have the Sweet 16 of Duke, Kansas, Michigan State, UCLA, Duke, UCLA in the Elite Eight, Duke to the Final Four. We have the Sweet 16 of Arizona, Arkansas, BYU, Purdue. Oh, that's the Elite Eight. No, that's a Sweet 16, excuse me. And then Arizona, Purdue advancing. Arizona with the bloodiest run to the finals of all time, beating Arkansas and Purdue. Then we get to the West, the Midwest. Michigan wins, obviously. I think this St. Louis, Georgia matchup is a very, very favorable matchup for St. Louis. St. Louis runs into trouble when they run into a team that is big and slows the game down. Georgia does not do that. This game is going to be fireworks, okay? This game is going to be fireworks. Let me show you this game on YouTube, on Torvik YouTube, if this would load. St. Louis and Georgia, two of the fastest teams in the country. Everybody that steps on the floor for St. Louis can shoot the three. Georgia out Alabama a couple of weeks ago. And now when I say that, I mean they ran faster, they shot more threes, they ran them out of the gym. Alex S with the follow. Thank you, Alex. Let me get this game on here, though. St. Louis. Georgia. Look at this here. Both these teams, Georgia and St. Louis. B with the follow. Thank you, B. Absolute beautician. Bro, it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube in a video. It's not being live streamed on YouTube. It's just going to be a video. Make sure you follow. I'll put the links in my bio. Brady Boss with the follow. Thank you. Adjusted tempo. Georgia, St. Louis. Georgia is 11th in adjusted tempo. St. Louis is 22nd. There was a time this year where St. Louis was number 1 in offensive efficiency and number 2. That number's come down a little bit, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're 61st in defensive efficiency, 46th. Georgia is 18th in offensive efficiency. And now everybody's going to talk about St. Louis like, oh, they played nobody. I'm telling you, the A-10 is probably better than the Big East. Maybe. I don't think, maybe. I might be overrating the Big Ten. I might be underrating the Big East, but I'm selling all my Big East stock. That's probably crazy to say. But Georgia, St. Louis, both these teams huck threes. St. Louis particularly, 40% from three. Everybody that steps on the floor can shoot threes. They're number 5 in the country in 2-point percentage defensively. They're number 15th in the country in 2-point percentage offensively. So not only do they shoot their threes really well, they're very efficient inside the arc. St. Louis leads the country in 10-0 runs. They have a lot of comeback wins in the A-10. They aren't as strong. They might have peaked a little bit early. I don't think that's the case. Rob Avila is a dog. Trey Green is a sniper. They've got guys in St. Louis. I think they run into problems when they match up with a team that is bigger because they're not the biggest team. They're not the greatest rebounding team. It's bigger and can slow the game down. That's not Georgia. This is a match made in heaven for the St. Louis Billikens. I think they get it done against Georgia. So give me St. Louis and then Texas Tech Akron. The Zips are a problem. I think they were the best team in the MAC all year. They just only had to play Miami of Ohio once. If they played them twice, I don't think they go undefeated. Miami of Ohio. Texas Tech's a team that's been reeling recently. They had the really impressive win after Toppin's injury. I don't think Troy will upset Nebraska. I think they will. They had a really impressive win against Nebraska. Or not. I'm reading the chat and trying to do this. It's overstimulation. Water break. Akron or Texas Tech. Really good win after Toppin went down against Iowa State. And then they lost to TCU. They got embarrassed by Iowa State in the tournament. They have a lot of 3-point shooting. I gotta throw this game in a Torvik too. Let's really dive into the analytics. How about it, chat? I like Akron a lot though. I think Texas Tech is reeling a little bit, which is unfortunate because if the Red Raiders had a healthy JT Toppin, they'd be a top 5 team in the country. I'd probably have them to the Final Four. Think about this for a second, chat. They beat Duke. They beat Arizona. Neither of those games were played at home. They beat Duke on a neutral site. They beat Arizona in Arizona. Koa Pete did leave that game early with an injury. If Texas Tech had JT Toppin, they'd be the scariest team in the tournament. I might have picked them. I might have picked them to win it all. Let's break this matchup down though. Akron shoots 38% from 3. Both of these teams huck threes. Holy cow. Akron is 64th in the country in 3-point rate. Texas Tech is 25th. The only difference here, Akron is 300th in 3-point rate defensively. So Akron lets threes up. That is Texas Tech's game, man. Does Akron have size? Do they have size? Because Texas Tech is not a big team, especially after the Toppin injury. It's a lot of LaJauan Watts down low. Does Akron have size, chat? That's the question here. Because if they can they don't have, like, the rebound numbers aren't that great. The rebound numbers are not that great for Akron, but they're not good for Texas Tech either. But then it's just Akron's going to let up more threes than Texas Tech is. Like, Texas Tech is good at running teams off the 3-point line, and that coincides well with them being able to shoot and make a bunch of threes. Like, it's not just Christian Anderson, who I think is a top 5 point guard in the country, maybe even top 3, but it's Atwell, it's Watts, it's Jalen Petty. Neither of these teams get to the free throw line. Texas Tech fouls a little bit more than Akron does. Let's look at Akron's roster and let's see how they match up in the size department. I feel like they're not the biggest team, man. Amani Lyles is their number 1 rebounder with 8 rebounds per game. He's a forward. Amani Lyles is 6'9". Yeah, this is a bad draw for Akron. This is a really bad draw for Akron. Texas Tech shoots a bunch of threes. They run teams off the 3-point line. I'm rolling with the Red Raiders. I think this is just a really bad matchup with Akron. Now we're in a spot where the bracket psychology starts fucking with you, because it's a real thing, bracket psychology. I have every 5 seed winning so far. And I tell you what, I'm not picking McNeese over Vanderbilt. So I'm getting screwed somewhere here. You have 1-2 seed in your Final Four. Like, how do they let you on live? What do you mean, bro? I think it's really chalky this year. I don't know what to tell you. I think the middle seeds is where all the lack of continuity. I think that's where all the madness is going to be, not with the top seeds this year. I have UConn losing in the second round. That's not chalk. Anyway, Alabama Hofstra. Oh, this is another one. I think Alabama's good enough with LeBaron Philon, but Hofstra's a really hot team as well. Honestly, Hofstra needed a banked-in 3 to beat Towson in the semifinals of whatever bullshit conference they're in. Alabama runs and runs and runs. Hofstra does slow things down. I know I have them here, but I'm gonna go Alabama over Hofstra. And then Alabama Texas Tech is just wild. I don't even know where to start with that game. Tennessee, I think they beat Miami of Ohio or SMU. They have too much size. I like Tennessee's draw here very, very much. UVA over Wright State. Santa Clara, Kentucky. This is one. Santa Clara, Kentucky's one that we gotta put in. We gotta throw that in Torvik too. Santa Clara with a really impressive win over St. Mary's in the semifinals of the Mountain West. Who do they play? My brain's malfunctioning. I'm sweating so much, chat. Kentucky is a good team, though. And Kentucky has some continuity in that they've been in March before. Like, Otega Owe was clutch last year in the SEC tournament. Otega Owe is a dog. Colin Chandler's been really clutch for them. They have size down low with Moreno. And that's an area where Santa Clara kind of messes shit up. Is they don't have a lot of size. They are 270th in defensive rebounding. That's not good. If you can't close out defensive possessions, you will lose in March. Moreno has really stepped it up on the glass recently as well. Kentucky does have the upper hand in guard play. Santa Clara is a really efficient offense, but so is Kentucky, man. And Otega Owe is such a guy you can rely on. I think Kentucky gets it done over Santa Clara. Although Santa Clara can't be overlooked. Oh, this is a tough game. I'm going to go. My gut's telling me Kentucky. My gut's telling me Otega Owe. And then Iowa State takes care of Tennessee State. Iowa State runs Kentucky out of the building. Way too much defensively. They're a beast. Iowa State over Kentucky. Tennessee, Virginia. Tough one here. Tennessee and Virginia is a really tough one because Tennessee has the bigs and they play the style of basketball that can slow down a Virginia team. Both teams play really, really slow. Both teams rely on good point guard play in the half court. And they get it. Jacoby Gillespie and Darren Hall, they get it. But Tennessee also has a guy in Nate Amen. And they create way more second chance opportunities than any team in the country. They played, I think the SEC and ACC is pretty even, but Tennessee does have better wins on their resume than Virginia does. I like Tennessee, even though Virginia ran Miami out of the gym. That is sticking in my brain a little bit in the ACC tournament. Other than that, their best wins were like FSU. I don't know. I'm taking Tennessee in this game. I like Nate Ament. I like Jacoby Gillespie. I like Akpara down low. Tennessee does allow a lot of threes, though. They do allow a lot of threes, but they hold teams to just 30% from three. Oh, Brody with the follow. Thank you, Brody. So I think Virginia is a team that shoots the 3-ball well, and they do take a good amount of them. I like Tennessee's defense to run them off the 3-point line. They collect defensive rebounds. They get offensive rebounds. They get second chance opportunities. They're more efficient on the inside. They play better defense, especially on the interior. And Virginia doesn't have a really good scoring guard. And that's where Tennessee has been bad. Is like they haven't had their guard play. Like Jacoby Gillespie's a traffic cone defensively. It's scoring guards that have been able to run it up against Tennessee. I don't think Virginia has that. Most of their scoring comes on the interior, or if it's Darren Hall, make it bad. So I like Virginia. I like Tennessee over Virginia. Iowa State, Tennessee. Iowa State's playing really good basketball. I like Iowa State. I think Tamin Lipsey is a guy that's just built for March, has a feel for the moment. Momcilovic is lights out from three. Tennessee does allow a lot of threes, and Joshua Jefferson is a problem. Tennessee does have the guys defensively down low to match up with Joshua Jefferson, but I just think Iowa State's too good in their guard play with Lipsey and Momcilovic that they're going to take care of Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Alabama, Texas Tech. Oh, boy, this game is tough. I mean, I like LeBaron Philon, but they don't play defense, man. And Texas Tech against teams that are going to allow a bunch of threes like Alabama does, that's a bad recipe for Alabama because Texas Tech shoots the three ball better than them. I think the Red Raiders can get past Alabama here, and all of a sudden I've flipped my tune on them. I think this is a good draw for the Red Raiders. Like, Alabama's not the greatest team. They're not the greatest team. They allow a bunch of threes, and Texas Tech is way better at limiting threes. Texas Tech is way better at holding teams to low percentages from beyond the arc, while simultaneously just burying a bunch of them in your face. So I like Tech over Alabama. Michigan takes care of St. Louis. Michigan takes care of Texas Tech. Michigan, Iowa State is an incredible matchup. Incredible matchup. But I think Michigan has too much size down low. I think Yaxel and Jefferson is such an interesting matchup. I think Yaxel has the upper hand. I think Mara eliminates any type of threat from Joshua Jefferson on the interior. And they do have really good defensive guard play that they can run Momcilovic and Lipsey off the three-point line. Give me Michigan to come out of the Midwest. So, guys, we do have chalk. I have picked every single 1 seed. I have not picked a single 12 seed to get an upset. I don't care. Somebody in the chat said the Zips are good. I agree, but they're a bad matchup against Texas Tech. Like, Texas Tech does what Akron does, but just at a really high level. All right, we get to the South, which I think is the second easiest region. Florida, Clemson in the second round because I like Iowa. Bennett Starts gets you 1, chat. Bennett Starts gets you 1. Vanderbilt takes care of McNeese. I think Vanderbilt's really underrated. They just blew the brakes off of Florida, right? North Carolina, VCU. Give me VCU here. North Carolina looks like the wind is just out of their sails since the news that Caleb Wilson's done for the year. Nebraska versus Troy. This is one we're throwing in Torvik. Give me Troy over Nebraska. First of all, there's so much pressure on Nebraska to win this game and get their first tournament win. But when you look at these two teams on Torvik, Troy gets way more offensive rebounds. Troy shoots a lot of threes. They make more of their threes against a Nebraska team that likes to run, that can't run teams off of the three-point line. So Troy's going to shoot more threes. Troy's going to win the offensive rebounding battle, meaning more possessions, and all the pressure is on Nebraska. And part of this is because I beefed with Nebraska fans in my chat for a long time. Troy ain't played anybody. I don't care. Give me Troy. Give me the Trojans over Nebraska Cornhuskers. And then whoever wins that game is getting blown out by Vanderbilt in the second round. And we get a rematch, Vanderbilt-Florida, in the rematch of the SEC semifinal. I have BC over North Carolina. Penn did have a guy that was a 5-star at Duke transfer, just scored 40, forgetting his name. I really like Illinois, though. I am bullish on Illinois way more than a lot of people. Give me Illinois. St. Mary's A&M. St. Mary's is too big for Texas A&M. Way too big for Texas A&M. They get the job done on the glass. Houston, Idaho. Houston gets the W. Houston beats St. Mary's. The guard play in Houston can't be understated. Milo Suzanne, Kingston Flemings, Emmanuel Sharp. If Carr plays the way he did in the Big 12 semifinals, then the sky's the limit for this Houston team. I think continuity matters. Being there matters. They played a national championship last year. They had one of the most emotional wins against Duke last year. They were down 10. They got it done. Give me Houston. I have VCU over UNC. The 11 seeds are pretty. They win more than they lose, and VCU. I'm just flipping. I want to have 2 11s, 2 6s. That just helps the math. And North Carolina got blown out. Blown out. Northern Iowa over the Johnnies. I'm not doing it. I thought about doing it, Jackson. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Even though Northern Iowa is 4 for 4. Every tournament they've gone to with this head coach, they've won a tournament game. But St. John's is just too physical. They're too physical. They rebound the ball too well. They play too good a defense. That's just so suffocating for a team that is in a mid-major. Illinois, VCU. Give me Illinois. Sets of Illinois, Houston in the Sweet 16 with Vanderbilt and Florida. I'm so tempted to pick Vanderbilt here. I am so tempted to pick Vanderbilt here. And I will. Shout out Tyler Tanner. Shout out McLaughlin. They have the size and the physicality down low to limit this Florida offense. And if you can get a lead on Florida, they don't have the three-point shooting, even though they've been shooting the three way better in the last month of the season. They don't have the three-point shooting to get it done and to make a comeback, which we saw yesterday in the SEC semifinals. Vanderbilt beats Florida. They have a match with Houston, but then Houston's guard play is just too good. Houston's guard play is too good. Their feel for the moment is too good. I really like their path here. I think they beat Illinois handily. I think they beat Vanderbilt as well. Final four of Duke, Arizona, Michigan, Houston. Houston, Duke in the Final Four national semifinals. Yet again, give me Duke over Houston. They are just too good. And then give me Arizona over Michigan. Arizona on the bloodiest path to the Final Four we have ever seen. Arkansas, Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, Calipari. See ya. Arizona over Purdue, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer. All the unks. See ya. Arizona over Michigan and Yaxel and Dusty May and Elliot Cadeau and Mara. See ya. And then Arizona in the national championship over John Shire, over Cam Boozer, over Caden Boozer, over Evans and Sarr, the bloodiest national champion we have had in recent memory. Give me the Arizona Wildcats. They are the deepest team. They have the best guard play in the country. Jaden Bradley gives a whole lot of Walter Clayton vibes. Krivas is a stud. And keep an eye on Anthony DeLorso coming off that bench. That guy's good for 25 in one of these games. Arizona Wildcats will cut down the Necks in Indianapolis. They are your 2026 college basketball national champions. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, make sure you follow the TikTok. I forgot to share the tab back. Unbelievable. I choked on the YouTube. I really dropped the ball on the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and follow. If you're watching on TikTok live, to enter the bracket pool, you got to be following. And I'm going to give $20 to whoever wins the bracket pool. So if you want to win the March Madness pool, you have to be following.